Hey, what's going on, everybody? We have blow-off valves, bypass valves, hybrid valves in front of us for the 10th Gen Civic 1.5 Turbo. We're going to do a few things. First, we're going to see if the factory valve is leaky at all, so we're going to see if we can get more boost out of one of these things. And then we're going to show you the sounds on all of them. We're also going to talk about the disadvantages and advantages of a blow-off valve. Let's do this. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm JP with Edge Autosport. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have several different bypass valves slash blow-off valves in front of me right here, all for the 10th Gen Civic. Now, all 6 of these items right here in front of me are available on our website as well as some others, so make sure you go to edgeautosport.com, check them out if you want. There's different colors, different styles, all that good stuff. So go to the website, check them out. We have them all available. And we're gonna put them on our car. We're gonna show you a few things. The first thing we wanna do is show you if, and actually show ourselves if the factory bypass valve is leaky at all. That can be a problem on a lot of cars where they don't wanna hold much more boost than what the factory gave them. And in our case, and in a lot of your cases, we are pushing the turbo further than what the factory intended. So it is important for us to find out if the factory valve is leaky. Sometimes you can get more out of the factory turbo if it is, just by putting a bypass valve on. We're also gonna show you how each one of these sounds. Now, with that said, we actually have one hybrid valve, which is gonna be the TurboXS. This is the only one here that vents to the atmosphere and recirculates air back into the intake. It does both, so it's gonna do half and half. We do have one bypass valve made by Forge right here, and that's a full recirc, so it's gonna give you the original intended use of a bypass valve, which is what the car has on it right now, maybe just with a stiffer spring. And then the other 4 are going to release all the pressurized air to the atmosphere and none of it back into the intake system. Now, that's not ideal. At the end of the day, that's not the way that the system is intended to be used. You know, if you want to go that direction, please understand it's strictly for sound. Long term, we've done this on a lot of cars, on a lot of math-based cars just like the Civic, and we haven't seen really significant drawbacks to it right away, right off the bat, or even in the short term. You know, long term, it might ruin a cat one day, and it might cause some pops and bangs, but you'll just have to decide if that's something that you want to deal with yourself. We're not gonna tell you to do one way or the other. It's your car, your parts, whatever you want to do with it is fine. You just have to understand what you're physically doing to the system. Okay, before we get started on our project, I'm just going to briefly explain what we have in front of us here, the brands and the functionality of each. So we'll start here on my left. This is a unique one in respect to the other ones because it is not technically a blow-off valve or a bypass valve, it's an adapter. So it's going to reuse the diaphragm of the factory bypass valve and turn it into a blow-off valve. So it takes the same spring, the same sealing mechanism, and it basically just blocks off the recirculation portion. So it vents through here and then out to the atmosphere. So this is strictly an adapter. This is a Forge Motorsport blow-off valve. It has a lot of release points on the outside around the entire body. So Forge blow-off valve only, vent to atmosphere only. And then Forge also makes a fully recirc one. So if you look down on the bottom of any of these valves, you'll see that if it has a center exit, that is a recirced valve, or at least a hybrid valve. As long as it has air going through the center of it, that means that some of it is being recirculated. This is the Boomba, fully recirculated. This one comes in a few colors too, which is kind of cool. This has a really cool, nice machined look to it, if you ask me. The TurboSmart is blow-off valve only. Now, I wanted to actually go over this really quick. We've done a video on this valve specifically in the past on our YouTube channel. They advertise it as a dual port. I'm not really sure why, because just, you know, looking at it, I don't really see any way that it can be recirculated. It does block off the center where the air goes back into the intake system pre-turbo. It blocks that off. So the TurboSmart is actually a full vent to atmosphere blow-off valve. And then this, the TurboXS, like I said earlier, is the only hybrid 50-50 valve here. It vents to the atmosphere and it recirculates some of the air back into the intake. So those are the 6 valves we're working with. The Forge ones now come with different springs. So if you're running more boost and you find that one spring is being leaky, you can switch to a stiffer spring, so that is kind of nice, but you do have to take it out and take off the top and put the new spring in there, but they do give you that option. All right, so let's start with our first one, get it on the car, and we'll show you how to install it exactly before we get it on the dyno. So we'll start with that. Let's get going. Okay, before we get started, we want to let you know what tools you need to use. This is a very, very simple job that requires minimal tools. So you need a set of pliers. This is kind of overkill. This is a big one, but nice to reach in there. You can just have a regular set of needle nose pliers. Some of you might need an extension or find it helpful. And then really the bulk of the work is being done by a ratcheting wrench and a socket. So you need an 8mm. That's really all you need for the install of this. It's super easy, very, very quick. Okay, the first thing you're gonna do is take your pliers, release the clamp to the vacuum line that attaches to the bypass valve, and then take that vacuum line off. And then you're going to take the 8mm bolts off and remove the cover and remove the valve assembly. Okay, we're gonna show you how to install using the TurboXS hybrid valve. Now, most of these are gonna be the same installation procedure, but you might find some differences like reusing hardware or using hardware like the TurboXS sense. So it looks like they have some stainless steel 5mm Allen heads. So, you know, they also include a couple zip ties and some silicone vacuum tubing. So if there is stuff like this to use with whatever kit you decide to go with, obviously use it. Or if it calls to use the factory, you know, hosing or anything like that, go ahead and use that. But we're just gonna do the TurboXS version, so that's what this includes. So with the new valve, you're gonna make sure that the O-rings are still located on the valve in the correct place before you put it in. This little U-shaped vent right here needs to go exactly where the factory U-shaped vent is. So make sure you get that lined up properly. Car is off the dyno now. We were able to confirm that the stock bypass valve actually doesn't really lose any boost like some bypass valves on other cars have in the past for us. So that's a good thing if you want to keep your stock bypass valve. Totally good option to keep them. But if you want a little bit of noise or you just want something to do to your car, you know, obviously there are other options. We're gonna go test the sound of all these things, and so we'll do them one by one and show you. We are not going to test the Forge bypass valve, only the Forge blow-off valve, because it's full recirc. It's really probably not gonna sound any different than the stock ones. So we're gonna skip that one, but we're gonna do all the rest. Okay, we're all done with the sound testing. Hope you guys enjoyed that. To my surprise, a lot of these actually sound really subtle and kind of quiet. It's not a super loud blow-off valve. None of them are super loud. I would say the TurboSmart, the Forge blow-off valve, and the TurboXS are probably I would say they're tied for the quietest. You could pick any one of those and it's gonna be, they're all noticeable. You can definitely hear it, but those are negligible in differences. The Boomba, I would say, is just a slight step up from those in terms of sound. And then actually the loudest and kind of the best sounding, in my opinion, is, believe it or not, the Torque Solution adapter plate. That actually had the most character out of all of them. Go figure. It reuses the stock bypass valve in the first place. So I found that kind of interesting. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you post them below. We'd be glad to help you. And yeah, we'll see you on the next video.